Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going over the next episode in my category breakdown series, and in today's video we are taking a look at Best Documentary Feature Film. Now if you're new to the channel or new to this series, this video is going to be in a playlist with all of the other episodes so far in the series, so feel free to go back and watch any of those previous episodes. I think there's only like 4 categories left that I have, so getting real close to the end, so there's a whole lot of content there, obviously, as the Oscars are in a couple days. But yeah, feel free to click on all of those. But basically all this is just every single year for the last 3 years, I've taken a look at every single individual category, and we talk about all of the different films that are nominated within that category. But we also, in addition to just talking about the films, we talk about the individual artists that are nominated alongside the film. So in this video, we're going to talk about the directors and the producers of these films. And we talk about some of their previous Oscar nomination history, previous wins, stuff like that. And after talking about the film, I give you my personal ranking 1 through 5 on how I would rank them in the category. Then I also give you my prediction on a 1 through 5 ranking as well of just how likely it is that I think they win the Academy Award this Sunday, March 15th. Without further ado, let's take a look at the nominees.
Alabama Solution.
Directed by Andrew Jarecki and Charlotte Kaufman. This is Andrew Jarecki's second Oscar nomination. He was nominated for Best Documentary Feature in 2004 for Capturing the Freedmans. This is Charlotte Kaufman's first Oscar nomination. Incarcerated men defy the odds to expose a cover-up in one of America's deadliest prison systems. The Alabama Solution was nominated for Outstanding Producer of Documentary Motion Pictures at the PGA Awards. Now, the Alabama Solution is actually really fascinating in this category because in terms of, judging it as, a film or as a documentary, I guess I don't really want to judge it necessarily as a documentary, but just, as a film, it's not, the best, well-shot film, doesn't have the best, maybe structure. There's things about it that you can, nitpick certain parts and decide whether you think it's, a great film, per se. But what I think is so impressive, what has got it here, and what I think is the most fascinating part about this documentary, is that it's a miracle that it even exists. You talk about maybe the footage isn't incredible because it's a whole lot of looking at not like Skype calls, but video calls over cell phones and stuff. Cell phones that the inmates should not have as they're doing this interview. It's everything that's involved with this, and I'm I almost want to dive even after finishing the documentary, I wanted to dive even deeper into this and being what is kind of the aftermath for everyone that was involved in the documentary. Obviously, it shows you that there's a couple of the guys that toward the end of their sentence, they're eligible for parole, or they're about to be released, and then they keep getting extended, or they keep getting denied parole and things like that. And so that so many of the people in this film are just they're still in prison, they're going to be in prison, they're not getting out. You see, and that's part of what is so maddening about this documentary is seeing, just the way that they're treated, seeing the response from the government and the leaders there in Alabama, seeing just the kind of most careless, they just don't care. People see that there's a solution, they say whatever they're going to say in order to prop themselves up, but then there's nothing being done to fix these real issues. And so it is, for me, it's one of the, I would guess I'd have to, yeah, I probably would say that this is the most, it's close, there's a couple, but I would say that this is the most maddening of all the documentaries. This is the one, and typically documentary films, they do one of two things really. If they're a really good documentary, is they either make you sad or they make you mad. And this is definitely the one for me that as I was watching this, I just was it was hard to control how upset and how angry I was getting at times in this documentary, because it is just maddening the way that they are treated. And there's clearly a need for reform in this, specifically in Alabama. It seems like this is probably issues and things that are happening here that don't happen in other states. This is not a, in whatever other random state, they've kind of probably several decades removed from a lot of these issues that they are struggling with here. And so it's just, again, it's a documentary that, again, you can kind of judge the merits of itself as a film, but what you can't deny is that it's a miracle that the film is even made, that you even have these interviews, that you have people on screen, that you have all this amazing footage that just again should not have been able to have been captured. It's just really a miracle that it happened, and I'm glad that the film is getting that recognition here at the Oscars. For my personal rank, I'm putting the Alabama Solution in third, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in third.
Come See Me in the Good Light.
Directed by Ryan White, produced by Jessica Hargrave, Tig Notaro, and Steph Willen. This is the first Oscar nomination for all four of Ryan White, Jessica Hargrave, Tig Notaro, and Steph Willen. In an intimate and joyful story of love in the face of loss, celebrated poets Andrea Gibson and Megan Foley find strength and unexpected hilarity in what might be their final year together. Now, Come See Me in the Good Light absolutely just kind of caught me off guard for a couple things. I mean, a couple reasons. One, the only thing that I knew about this film was because I've said this in a previous video, but when the Oscars, like the short list comes out for Oscar nominated songs, I love listening to all 15 of them for like, a couple weeks prior to nominations just to kind of get familiar with the songs. And I feel like typically I'm pretty good at, I guess not always, but sometimes my taste I feel like kind of aligns with what ultimately can kind of get nominated, or I can kind of discard some songs where I'm just like, okay, well, this doesn't really work for me, like I don't think it's going to get nominated. And so there was the Salt Then Sour Then Sweet is the song from Come See Me in the Good Light, the Sarah Bareilles song, and that was one of my favorite. Like, I love that song. It's very beautiful. It's this very kind of peaceful and like, it sounds like a happy song if you're listening along, and then if you listen to the lyrics, it feels a lot like this documentary, really. There's just some lines that, the line, the pick up a penny and I'll marry you for your money, love, like that is so like romantic, but it's like at the same time it's this like kind of sad, like the whole song, it just kind of has that same vibe. But anyway, it's a very beautiful song, and so that was the only thing I knew about this documentary. And, since that's the only thing that I knew about the documentary, that means I didn't know who Andrea Gibson was. And, it kind of makes sense in my head because, I'm not a big fan of poetry. I don't know poets, especially like modern day poets. So it's like, it makes sense why they wouldn't have like ever kind of come into like my taste, or like just kind of like the things that I consume. Like, I just don't listen to a lot of poetry. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense why I didn't know who they were. But they were huge. Like, they were selling out stadiums. Like, it's one of those that this person is so big, like I should have at least heard the name. So watching this documentary, I felt like I was going crazy because I was like, there's no way that like someone this big, I just have no idea who they are. And so it was kind of, I feel like this documentary maybe works a little bit differently depending on your knowledge, and like if you know Andrea, if you know them as a person and know their work, because you already have that kind of connection. But for me, it was almost made it sadder in the sense that I was learning about this person, learning how smart and how witty and how talented they are at their craft. Again, not a craft that I'm super familiar with, but something that I can at least appreciate, that I'm like, I'm listening to them reading their poetry, and I'm like, okay, it's like, I get it. Like, I get why someone would be a fan of this. And so for me, it was almost like just hardening to like see this, to go through this, the emotions of this, of learning to love someone, learning to love, I mean, this relationship, getting this real intimate look at the relationship. Was so beautiful. The humor in this, like, I was laughing way harder than I thought I was going to, especially with how the documentary starts and you kind of understand what the documentary is about. I was like, I'm laughing way too hard at this. And then to go through and then see them struggle through, see Andrea struggle through their diagnosis and through the recovery and everything, I kind of was, you get emotional and you get choked up at that. And then they kind of make a little bit of recovery, and then it kind of goes bad again at the end, but then the documentary kind of ends, and that they're kind of going on their, going to continue on their life, kind of, it's their life is going to be essentially kind of like how it was toward the end of the documentary, and you kind of just have this hope that, okay, hopefully they continue to live this long and healthy and happy life for as long as they get to live it. And so then it was after the documentary that I looked it up and saw that they just passed away last year. And so it was like, for me, as this person that I didn't know anything about them, then watched this documentary and was like, they lived this full and beautiful and exciting life that was way too short, but they touched so many people's lives just intimately, like, their friends and family, and then on like a global scale of the fans that they had through their poetry. Like, it's just seeing this entire journey and then kind of seeing it after the documentary, kind of learning about their passing. It just really was an emotional documentary for me. And like I just said with The Alabama Solution, I feel like a lot of good documentaries, they either make you sad or they make you angry. This film made me very happy for a lot of it. It is very touching. It's very beautiful. Again, it's very humorous. It does make you sad because obviously the deeper theme. But I think that this song or this documentary, the way that it's crafted, the way that I think they always, when they were making this, they always had a clear picture of what they were doing with this film, the message they wanted it to send, and I think they did an excellent job putting this all together. For my personal rank, I'm putting Come See Me in the Good Light in second, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in fourth.
Cutting Through Rocks.
Directed by Sarah Kaki and Mohamed Ezra Eni. This is the first Oscar nomination for both Sarah Kaki and Mohamed Ezra Eni. 37-year-old Sarah Shaverdi, a motorcycle riding, land-owning, former midwife turned fierce citizen advocate and recent divorcee, just won a landslide local election in her remote Iranian village, and everyone has opinions about it. Cutting Through Rocks currently doesn't have distribution in the United States, and barring a miracle, will be the only Oscar-nominated film I don't get to see. I will be abstaining from giving it a personal ranking, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in fifth.
Mr. Nobody Against Putin.
Directed by David Borenstein, co-directed by Pavel Tolenkin, produced by Hel Faber and Elżbieta Karaskova. This is the first Oscar nomination for all four of David Borenstein, Pavel Tolenkin, Heli Faber, and Elżbieta Karaskova. As Russia launches its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, primary schools across Russia's hinterlands are transformed into recruitment stages for the war. Facing the ethical dilemma of working in a system defined by propaganda and violence, a brave teacher goes undercover to film what's really happening in his own school. Mr. Nobody Against Putin won for Best Documentary at the BAFTAs. It was also nominated for Outstanding Producer of Documentary Motion Pictures at the PGA Awards. And now we're back to getting back into the documentaries that are to make you mad. The next two are back in that camp. Mr. Nobody Against Putin. It is interesting in the sense that a lot of documentaries, it feels like when you can kind of tell what the Academy specific tastes are in certain categories, like documentaries, it feels like the Russia-Ukraine conflict is something that there's almost always a nominee, something's kind of popping up. And, sometimes I think if it's, a new topic or a new war or, whatever the current topic is, the first film gets to kind of be a pretty basic, just kind of overview of, hey, here's this conflict, here's what's happening. Once you start kind of stacking them up year after year, you have to get things like Navalny. You have to get, a different angle of it. And I think that's exactly what Mr. Nobody Against Putin is it's just a different angle of, again, this same conflict, this same, topic, subject that we've already seen a lot of documentaries about, but in order to get it fresh, in order to get it something that is going to captivate, if someone, is turning on the documentaries and not like, oh, great, another Russia-Ukraine documentary, you have to do something a little different where you have to present it and you have to give this story of being told through this teacher. And again, it's another one that will make you mad as you're watching and you're seeing this teacher that used to have all this time for all these fun activities and things that he used to film and the different like music videos or whatever, things he would shoot with the kids, and he had this whole kind of thing, and then all of a sudden when the war started heating up and things were getting a little more serious, and then all of a sudden instantly you just see the school turn into this propaganda machine where they're being forced to feed things. They get these scripts, they have to read a specific script, and film this to make it look like, oh, look how smart our kids are and look what our teachers are teaching them. But when you see him filming it and he's not cutting the camera and he's not editing things and he's letting it kind of be this real authentic look at the propaganda that they're being forced to kind of put out there, you can see how this is maddening, and you can see how this would eat at someone who, again, clearly has a passion and has a love for filming and for making videos and whatnot, but all of a sudden now it feels like that's being taken away from him, and he's being forced to be a part, like a cog in this machine that he doesn't want to be a part of, especially in the role that he's being forced to play, doesn't want to play it. It is a documentary that, again, I liked a lot of the documentaries in here, so it's a little lower on my personal ranking, but it's still one of those that I still truly liked it. It was a insightful and a well put together documentary. Now, in terms of, because I haven't really talked about any film's chances of winning, because spoiler alert, it's these bottom two films here. These are the two that have the chance at winning. I am really close, like this is as close of a 50-50 category as I think there is this upcoming Sunday. I'm really close to picking this. Like the only thing is I kind of think like we've have done this before, like we've done Russia Ukraine documentaries, and so I think I guess I don't know. Like it's obviously we keep nominating them, so there's clearly a the Academy is kind of leaning that way of these are the stories we want to award. This is what we want to promote. Like by giving it the Oscar, we want this to get the recognition, the attention that it deserves. So maybe there is a chance there, but then there's also the thing of like, do we just every single year do we keep kind of awarding this? And so I don't know right now. I don't think I'm going to predict it to win, but on probably Sunday morning I'll get my final Oscar predictions out, so make sure you tune into that to see if I flip. But right now I think it's a real strong contender. For my personal rank, I'm putting Mr. Nobody Against Putin in 4th, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in 2nd.
And The Perfect Neighbor.
Directed by Gita Gambhir, produced by Alyssa Payne, Niken Kwantu, and Sam Bisbee. This is Gita Gambhir's second Oscar nomination. She was also nominated this year in the Best Documentary Short Film category for The Devil is Busy. This is the first Oscar nomination for all three of Alyssa Payne, Niken Kwantu, and Sam Bisbee. Police body cam footage reveals how a long-running neighborhood dispute turned fatal in this documentary about fear, prejudice, and stand-your-ground laws. The Perfect Neighbor was nominated for Best Documentary at the BAFTAs, Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Documentary Film at the Directors Guild of America, Outstanding Producer of Documentary Motion Pictures at the PGA Awards, and for Best Editing at the Critics' Choice Awards. And right back to angering you with these documentaries. When I was saying the Alabama Solution was the one that makes you the most angry in the category, I still think it probably is, because it's like a bigger systemic issue. This one can still kind of make you angry, but just because I don't think it's as large scale. Like there is in this documentary, the big incident, the big thing here is just this neighbor and their whole issue with the entirety of this neighborhood, and it seems specifically with her black neighbors is where a lot of the issue is coming from. So that's where a lot of your anger is kind of geared towards. But there is, I think, when you kind of like look back at it, or kind of kind of peel it back a little bit, there is like a lot of anger that I think you can have towards, again, kind of the police in this film as well, because it's one of those where it's like if you're trying to look at it from the police's side, a lot of this at the beginning was like just he said, she said, kind of obnoxious stuff that like at times it's like, okay, well, what else can you do? Like there's nothing you can really do. They're being a nuisance, they're being annoying. All you can do is kind of just tell both sides to stay away from each other. But then there's things where it feels like, okay, we're crossing a line, or it feels like there's too many signs. Like, this is the 50th time you've come out. Like, there's got to be something. Like, it felt like it was very obviously building to a big explosion at some point. And so it's one of those that I can see kind of some of that frustration, some of that anger, even though when you look at it, from a police perspective of, like, you don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I know all the things that the police can do in these type of situations, but it's this felt like something should have been done. And then when the big conflict happens, it then still feels like, again, I get that people have their rights and yada yada, but it felt like there was just too long of kind of just letting her move back into the neighborhood. And so there's a whole lot about this film that is just kind of makes you mad, the way that this is handled, and getting all of this footage of the neighbor specifically is what I think is also just very maddening. And honestly, between this and what was the incident? Is that what it was called? The documentary short last year? Between those two, I think I've realized that like real-time police cam footage, because like who doesn't love watching like a body cam footage video on YouTube, like though, like there's something about the real-time like actual camera footage that gets you this like real raw film, or just kind of a experience, or just a real life clip, if you're watching like police cam body cam stuff. Like there's something so captivating and fascinating about that to me, where I just think that makes for great storytelling, because it just naturally kind of builds the suspense, but also can kind of build your anger in real time as you're seeing how this is all laying out. And so I just think that this is really well done, the way that it is edited with all of the different Ring camera or police cam footage or just different things like that. Like it's put together so well. It's put together so well in a sense too, where as you're watching the film, everything is laid out in order. It's laid out like as people are getting new information, and it very clearly paints the picture of exactly what happened in this situation. Like there's no gray area really. And I also think that part of this, what is kind of good about this documentary is, again, it's pretty obvious with the way that the film starts and the kind of just the understanding of what this documentary is. You kind of have an idea of where this is heading, and then still, as I was watching it, because the beginning is just so much petty arguments and constant calling the police over nothing, and like there's so much in the first like 30 minutes or so of this documentary just kind of stacking on top of each other, where it's just like it gets almost like repetitively kind of like lulls you into this sense of just being like, even as you're watching it, you're just like, oh, it's just this crazy neighbor, like, but you forget that there's actually something sinister, there's something troubling, there is something bad brewing here, and it's about to erupt. And I completely kind of got lulled into that. And so when the event happens, kind of around a little before the midway point of this film, it almost like kind of caught me off guard to where I was like, I just was not ready for that. Like it felt so sudden because you just kind of got lulled into this repetitive behavior, petty behavior of this neighbor. So this is another documentary that I think really will make you mad as you're watching it, but it also is just like, it's so well done that you kind of appreciate the way that the story is told, because when it gets to the end and you're watching the courtroom footage kind of at the end, you kind of end and you just kind of feel like you got this whole experience where you understand this whole trial, you understand everything. I just think that this is a documentary that is so well done. For my personal rank, I'm putting The Perfect Neighbor in first, and for my prediction, I'm putting it in first. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this category. What films are you rooting for? Who do you think is going to win? Are you, like me, kind of between Mr. Nobody against Putin and The Perfect Neighbor? Like, I feel like this is going to be a coin flip. I really think there's a chance I maybe flip on Sunday morning, but we will see. Let me know all of that down below in the comments. And if you'd like to like this video and then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes in this series or any of the other series that I have going on my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.